Hello everybody, and welcome to the Brewing Labs. My name is Jordan Leroy Hansen, also known as LevDev. Now for this episode of the Brewing Labs, we're actually going to make a deck tech that's based around one of my personal favorite families from the upcoming MTG set Streets of New Capenna, which is the Riviteers. And as you can see, I'm actually properly representing my family with this really nifty pin. For those who don't know, Pinfinity is the provider of this pin. They actually gave me a free one to show off. And actually, they are going to essentially start selling pins based on the family factions on their website pretty much as this video pretty much is come out. You should be able to see the Pinfinity pins come out, each based on a representative family. Pretty much you can pre-order for the pins for the upcoming set. They have one for each crime family, which comes with the pin that has the set symbol of your respective family, as well as it comes with a pin that actually shows off your crime boss, which for the Riviteers is Ziator. Oh boy, I love my dragon with flame. Nevertheless, they also are going to be selling off pins based off the Planeswalkers of the upcoming set, specifically off Nitzlis and Vivian, all in like a gold blazing style. It is absolutely gorgeous. So if you want to, you can head to
PinfinityAR.com
and buy some pins if you want to. With your purchase, if you use the creator code LevDev, you will get a 20% off your order. So that helps give a little money for me to help support for this channel, which I would appreciate. Nevertheless, though, let us represent our family with some fun deck tech of the Riviteer variety in this episode of the Brewing Labs.
Family, 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 family.
Hello everybody, as stated before, welcome to the Brewing Labs. Now for this episode, as stated before, we are going to do some Riviteer shenanigans and trying out this Riviteer Stomp deck that I decided to brew. Basically, the premise is we got some Stompy creatures, we got some removal to keep the Stompy creatures in check, swing in for face, as well as get a little bit of value from Fabled the Mirror Breaker. But let's go through the deck just real quick. In our 2-drop slot, we have one Valky God of Lies, one Tibble Cosmic Imposter. This is mostly just used against the grindier matchups. You could even go to 2 of these if I'm being honest. Mostly just, it's good for early game hand disruption. Late game, just essentially get the value of Tibble, which is a very valuable card. Then we're running a couple of Thundering Rebukes. You can actually use, essentially, Agonizing Grasp, any pretty much 2 spot removal. I just like this one since we're going Stompy and such, and we don't really have that much life gain in the list, so I would rather have removal that doesn't make us lose life, but that is an option that you can run. We're also running free Ranger classes, just being able, very powerful card in the meta, just being able to generate the Wolf token, make our creatures that are Stompy more bigger, as well as be able to play creatures from the top of our graveyard. Very nice. We're also running Run Shigeki Jukai Visionary, just because it's good ramp. It also allows us to super regrowth, and I always love a good regrowth in a deck design, to regrowth our creatures and being able to attack in, or even our tech cards, removal, etc. We're also running 2 of the Meathook Massacre, just to help us out in a pinch, and even when we get to the point where we attack in with our creatures, if we get our opponent to a low enough life total, it makes them a little bit more harder to remove unless they have exile removal, because then they will lose life, which is very nifty. In our free drop slot, we're running 1 of Dire Strain Rampage, which I think this is a card that's a little bit underrated, if I'm being honest. Yes, you don't really want to use this as spot removal majority of the time, but this is as a 1 of, it's perfectly fine. Being able to remove, like, a wedding announcement, as well as just any opponent's Ranger class or their Meathook Massacre, and just getting them a land out of the process. Not the end of the world. Removes Asuka's Chariot. We can even remove man lands with this. And also, we can use this as our own ramp. As you notice that we have a few more basics than usual. Because we can destroy our own land and just ramp if we need to. There's not really any problematic permanents that this spell targets that essentially we can just use as ramp. Then we're running also Cemetery Power. Just a nice card in general. Being able to exile cards from the opponent's graveyard, as well as just essentially make our spells cheaper. Very nice. We're also running Reckless Stormseeker, as well as its flip side, Stormcharge Slasher. This has just been a powerful card in the meta in general. Taps in as a free, can make our creatures have haste, and just essentially buff our creatures, even buff them with trample if it's night. Very powerful card. We're also running Fable the Mirror Breaker. Mostly just because this is my pet card from Neon Dynasty. I just like this card a lot. Being able to generate the Goblin token to generate treasure, very nice. Being able to have the discard as well as draw cards, very nice. And the Reflections of Kiki Jiki, just a very powerful card, especially in the Stompy deck where we can make a copy of Werewolf Pack Leader, or Black. Werewolf Pack Leader, that was a brain fart, Reckless Stormseeker, Cemetery Power, or even Wild Oddity, which gets us to the 4-drop slots. Mostly, this is just a very powerful card in general in Stompy decks. Just a 4/4 trample haste. You always like it in these type of lists. And also, we're running Binding of the Old Gods as our unconditional removal. This is the better option over technically Dire Strain Rampage. But like I said, I kind of want a split of these, so this one's just better because it helps us ramp and such. It's the reason why we're also running 2 of the Snow Dual Lands from the Kaldheim cycle, because we can fest them with this to help us with mana fixing if we need it. But most of the part, we're just going to use it for ramping and unconditional removal. Also, that last step is really nifty in our deck, since we do have ways to give tramples, such as like Uvenwald Oddity turning into Uvenwald Behemoth, or using the activated ability of the Werewolf Pack Leader. Blah. Why am I seeing Werewolf Pack Leader? Brain farts essential. Anyway, we can essentially use it to more or less use the trample and use the benefit of Trample with Death Touch for those who don't know, who are beginning Magic. The benefit you get with Trample and Death Touch is that you only have to deal 1 damage to the creature that's blocking it, so then all the damage goes rest to the opponent, which is very, very nice. We're also running 2 Halana and Alana partners. This has just been a powerful card in the meta in general. Just being able to give creatures to our pretty much creatures counters as well as haste, make them more stompy, and make them more ready to swing in the facey, which is very nicey. Okay, that was probably a weird way of putting that, but essentially makes our creatures bigger and makes us essentially be able to make our creatures more stompy and get into the face. Then we're running Orcus, Prince of Undeath. This is just a very powerful card in general from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. Flying Trample, as well as just essentially we can pump Ets into it to do either of the activated abilities here. Each other creature gets negative Ets, until in a turn you lose Ets life, or return up to Ets target creature cards with total mana value Ets or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until in a turn. Very nifty since we have some 2-drops and 3-drops that we don't mind returning with Orcus, or if we need the board wipe, we can also use the board wipe. Then our 5-drop slot, we're running Goldspan Dragon because, well, Goldspan Dragon. Very powerful card in the meta, just a 5-mana 4/4. Flying Haste generates more treasure that helps us ramp essentially into our other stuff, either leveling up classes or activating abilities of Kiki Jiki, maybe even ramping into a Tybalt. Or for our one-of in the list, Storm the Festival. Just a very powerful card in general since we have a powerful 5 to 2-drops. We can cheap out some stuff with Storm the Festival if we need to in the late game. Very nice, and then also we can cast it from the graveyard. As you can see, we kind of went one of each of these flashback spells. As for the mana base, we're kind of going with a Jun, or I guess in this case, Riviteer mana base. We're running 2 of each basic in the Riviteer colors. We're running pretty much a full playset of the Pathway cycle for the Riviteers. We're running 2 of the, as I mentioned before, the Snow Dual Lands from Kaldheim that have a force in it that can be fetched with Binding the Old Gods. And we're running Rockfall Vale. Very nice to have a chill land in this deck. Nevertheless, that is the deck. Let us try it out on ladder and see what shenanigans of the Riviteer variety it can provide. Shall we? Okay, let's see what shenanigans our opponent's going to provide. Let's do some Riviteer stomping. Okay, here, pretty decent hand. We do got some early game removal. We do got ourselves a nice free drop. We do need to get the second green. We can hopefully draw into that. Worst case scenario, we can play a turn for Halana. So, we can keep this, see what shenanigans our opponent is playing with. So, we're going to play that. And we're going to see. So, they got a little bit of Snowland, and we do have a good turn to play. Awesome. So, let's play a little bit of range of class. Make ourselves a little wolf token. There's a chance that the token might get removed by spot removal. Our opponent decides not to. Fair enough. Here in this case, we're just going to run both our class. Play this on Light Step Pathway, swing in for 2. And swing in for 3. Ooh, that was Blood Mage. They're going to go hard with that. Here we could use the fun Thunderous Review? Or do we want to just Halana and just swing in more? Honestly, here, I think I'm just going to remove it with the Thunderous Review. Save finding the old gods for essentially when we need to remove something bigger. Plus, our werewolf token, or not werewolf, wolf token is getting the job done. Ooh, another challenge. 4 card draw. Okay. If our opponent insists, for here, we're just going to do another Thunderous Review. And our opponent's like, nope. Okay, that is what we call a very quick game.
Was a good ride while it lasted. Come on, kids. Let's go home.
We are home.
That was fast.
Okay, let's see. We're going against... that Jaffa, I believe is how you pronounce that. Okay, here's interesting. We could do a turn to Tybalt, or Falky, I guess, technically. To Loki joke here.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
Can disrupt. Got turn 4, turn 5. I don't hate it. If we draw into a 2-drop, then we would rather play. We'll probably play that. But a little bit of hand disruption is always not bad to have. You see red. That usually means spot removal, so I don't really want to play bulky since it's just going to get removed and such. So here we might just be potentially building up into... Okay, we both have our green, so we just need to get the red for the Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it now, even if it gets removed, at least then how he doesn't get removed and stuff like that. So yeah, they're playing Outland Liberator. They're definitely playing attack against enchantments, which with our deck is a little bit tricky. So I think here we just take out the... honestly, great. And we just have to consider the fact that we're going to have to deal with some very powerful creatures later. There's the Death Touch. Okay, here I'm just going to play this. And like this. Level that up. And I'm going to do something weird. I'm actually going to swing in with the bulky. I know this seems like a less optimized play here, but mostly I want to get rid of this Wrecker. Because they are just going to play this werewolf here, remove the ranger class. Mostly I just want to get rid of the potential death touch, and I forgot about that. That's not good. Well, we are still, no matter what, we are going to block that. Yeah, we're blocking that. Okay, did we destroy the ranger class? Not yet, it seems. Here, I think we just play Goldspan Dragon. Get a little bit of ramp, which can help us get a board wipe set up for Orcus, which that's kind of the game plan here. Though we do have to be cautious since we do see a Ren in 7 here. In other words, if we force our opponent to remove the Ranger class here, I don't mind. Let me put it like that. Our opponent's thinking here. Okay, perfect. We got them to remove that. Perfect. So we're going to swing in, get some ramp. Pass the turn to our opponent, see if they fall into So they go to Ren and 7 is my guess here. Or are they going to Halana and Alana? Both are valuable options, one way or the other. Okay, so they're going to go. Makes sense.
Those who hold the forest, from root to canopy, the trees are mighty.
Actually, I got an idea. Watch this. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we're gonna Orcus here. We're going to do this for 2. We're gonna return back Bulky. And sure, we will take an Aberbrack Caretaker. You can have the card there. We do not mind that card whatsoever.
Every seed contains great potential.
And they just milled their removal. Nice. So here they're probably going to play Halana and Alana. Unless they drawed into removal. Let's see if they did. They did not, so they're going to play their Halana and Alana. Great card from Crimson Bound. So they're going to buff up their tree. And if they attack in, I do think we take the tree damage. Though they probably... They had the removal. Monkeys. Well, it was worth the dream of the shenanigans there. Well, I guess here then the game plan is to play the Long Oddity. Hold up the land since we don't really need to use it. That would have been so perfect, being able to steal the Aberbrack Caretaker. But no matter what, we are going to have to block the Kappa's tech wrecker because we don't really want our GP to be destroyed.
We will
So, something to keep in mind.
safe route.
So yeah, this is definitely like rule modified shenanigans. There's the Caretaker. They're going to probably buff up the Caretaker. And they're going to buff up... I'm not surprised they didn't sequence that when they first buff up... Oh yeah, they sequenced it properly. Okay. We're going to discard the land. Second gold span, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, I think we attack in with this. Mostly just get treasure to play the second Fable of the Mirror Breaker. There's a nut tree. There's a nut prison. Wait. that's going to be the only thing that can destroy pretty much our only outlet of a potential win condition here, essentially.
Magic pulses beneath our feet. This properly this time. Do we want to do it now, though? Because what we could do is create a couple gold spans. Not yet. Soon, though, but not yet. Every seed contains great potential.
Now that's a lot of board state.
Sure. Okay, so there's the plan. Okay, so put the copy there. We block the copies we can that would kill us. We might still block here. Block here. Down to 1. Okay. That was a really close game. Good game, opponent. Good. Whew, we got stomped there, not gonna lie, but that was actually a really sweet game of Magic the Gathering, not gonna lie. Okay. Well, let's get stomped to the ground. Well, little Riviteer died by a Riviteer of the Stompy, I'm guessing. That's glorious. Well, this is going hurt. Oh, well, at least we got mercied by Helana's first strike. Yeah, that's funny. Okie dokie, let's see here. There we go. We're gonna go against Mayhem. I guess we're going into the Riviteer destruction. Mayhem shenanigans. With a hand we are not keeping, even if we thought it was a good idea. This hand, much better. We can do essentially a turn 2 Werewolf Pack Leader, turn 3 Cemetery Prowler. Yeah, I like this hand a lot better. We can toss a Meat Hook Massacre, because we are going with Riviteer style, a little bit Stompy. So here, we're going to play the Temple Crown Pathway, play our Werewolf Pack Leader, opponent's playing green-black. They play a little snake friend. Well, we're gonna swing in, see if they respond by blocking with the snake friend. Probably won't. Makes sense. We're gonna play this on the Seer Staff pathway to make sure we have the red for Goldspan Dragon. In this case, we're gonna play a secondary card. That way, then we can attack next turn and net ourselves a card draw if our opponent doesn't spot removal something. There could be a chance that they bind in the Old Gods, one of our creatures here, especially with the ramp and the Lotus Cobra. Blue, eh? There we go, as predicted.
And the truth shall set you free!
They decided to go with that, it makes sense. Here, we're just going to play this, because next turn we can Goldspan Dragon. Actually, we could just cast it this turn, technically, due to the discount. Yeah, I don't see why not. Worst case scenario, we net ourselves a treasure. Like I said, even if you give the cemetery cards, this discount you get to help with your creatures. Oh, okay. Yet again, discounts coming in handy. Swing in with the team. Our opponent's blocking the oddity. Okay, they're going down the 3. Can we be sneaky and 2 this? We could just go do this for 1, destroy their mana ramp. Yeah, I actually don't mind that, because then if they have like a board wipe of sorts, then they're going to have to be dealt some damage. So let's get that Cobra. Gain ourselves a little bit of life from that. And force our opponent to have a board wipe here. And even if they have the board wipe here, then they should theoretically lose the game because of Meathook Massacre. Ha-ha! Splenderoni to the Pepperoni. The Riviteers always make the circumstances of bringing buildings up and bringing decks down. Okay, let's see what shenanigans our opponents are providing tonight. Let's see. Yeah, we got a turn 3 Reckless Stormseeker. Try to draw into a turn 2 flame. This will be solid. Oop, we're gonna play this pass turn for our opponent. Some mono-black shenanigans, it seems. Really don't know what our opponent's doing, so we'll just play this nice, cozy mountain. Could be Rakdos, could be Gagari, could just be mono-black control in general. It could be a variety of things. But it looks like mono-black. Yeah, especially mono-black since we're seeing Jadar. We're probably also going to see stuff that essentially benefits Well, here, we're going to play this on green to save up for the Loopball Tracker. There is a world where we maybe should have chose the black side of this to essentially set up for a Meathook next turn. But I'm curious to see kind of like how our opponent's curve goes. Because this could just be a chance that all we have to do is just like on turn 5, essentially. We're going to Binding of the Old Gods, probably their biggest thing they play here, and then we can Meathook Massacre the smaller board next turn. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Though we might want to hold up the attack of our opponent. Okay, they're deciding to attack. Oh. If that's the case... Yep. We're just gonna do this now. Destroy the jar. Swing in for 3. They're probably going to block with the Shambling Gas so they can get a little bit of ramp, is my guess. Here, we're probably going to go get the Snow, pretty much the Forest, the Gagari variation, the Snow Forest with the Binding of the Old Gods. One thing to note about this card that might be very nifty in the upcoming standard, this can fetch Triomes, especially those of the Triomes that have Forest in them. So, this could help fetch our Riviteer Triome. So, something to keep in mind. Okay, here, as stated before, we're going to go get our Woodland Chasm. And here, I think what I want to do is just play this. Bubble this up. Give this haste. Swing in. Give the Wolf the buff, since we're probably going to refresh everything for 2. Probably. Depends on what our opponent plays here. Another Shambling Gas. Okay, decide to blood chase first the token. And they're going to swing in Jadar and the zombie token. And this Shambling Gas, they're thinking hold up the blocks. Makes sense. That now changed a lot of things. Okay, first things first. Gonna give this a buff. Aiming for free. Our opponent has to double block with their Shambling Gas and give both of them -1. They decide not to do that, which is the play we want them to do. So then we're gonna do this. -1 everything.
Oh no!
Keep their decayed zombie token. They're probably gonna generate treasure here. Makes sense. And then here we can play this, exile one of their zombies, which then we can use to make our creatures cheaper. So that is what they say according to plan. They probably will remove the cemetery probably though, or at least one of the creatures. But they might need to also build up their board presence, because we could just leave them next turn if they don't build up their board presence. You either need to do that or massive board wipe. One or the other, essentially. Because I can tell you, a decayed zombie token is not going to get the job done here. Enrica. Okay, I think I see where they're going with this. Yep. We're going to sacrifice. Unfortunately, we have to sacrifice that, but we do make our opponent closer to a potential not great board state. So here, we're going to play our string here, buff it up, swing in, buff it up, and bada beep, bada boop, Riviteer, fight! Splendarami to the pepperoni. And that is the Riviteer Stomp. Overall, I really, really, really like this deck. It could use a few little bit tweakings here. Like I said before, there was the one I mentioned before where you could put in the Graveyard Trespasser, essentially, to replace the Vigilance creature and such, to help us get more Graveyard hate and such. That's definitely something to consider. I also like, one of the cards I am considering for future iterations of this list, especially when the Streets of New Capenna set's coming out. I'm actually considering Rush Rebirth of all things. Mostly because a lot of Blitz creatures are coming into the format, and this could just be Blitz a cheap creature, Rush Rebirth, oh, get another toot out another creature from our library and such, as well as get the card draw from the Blitz. So that's something to definitely consider for this list, even in general, just to test this card out and such. So that's something to consider. Other than that, just mostly your typical good removal, such as more or less, we're doing more burn-based removal here, but you could do your Parasitic Grasp, your Frontal Grasp with the World, essentially any of your spot removal that you see in these colors for the early game and such, as well as your Blood Cheese first, which could help us remove Planeswalkers, which, as you notice, one of the main weaknesses is we didn't really, with the exception of Thundering Rebuke, had much, as well as buying the Old Gods, removal of Planeswalkers, and sometimes we wanted to remove the creatures first to just get in with Sweeney and Stompy and such. Other than that, I would also recommend just any more good Stompy creatures, maybe a couple more Uvenwald oddities and such, or maybe other creatures, early game Stompy creatures. You could also consider as another saga to put in the list if you are wanting to do turn 1 plays and such, maybe Kamana Face Kakazan, just because it buffs up your turn 2 creature if you can cast your turn 2 creature consistently, and then essentially get the 2/2 haste that whenever a creature's dealt damage by this turn, it will exile instead, which is some very good graveyard hate. And that is the Riviteer Stomp. Nevertheless, I want to thank everybody who enjoyed this deck tech. If you want to support my channel as much, you can just like and subscribe. Also, if you want to, you can buy a pin from Pinfinity AR. A percentage of the sales do kind of help support the channel, which is awesome. Nevertheless, I hope you all have a lovely day. As they say, hip hip hooray, bada beep, bada boom.